Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amir Faroki. I'm head of school at a small private school here called Galloway, 3 years old through high school. And I'm joined by just three fantastic panelists, each of whom comes to the conversation today with distinct expertise. And I want to thank you for making time to be part of this Idea Lab. As Melanie indicated, it's interactive. So after roughly 30 minutes of us chatting about the challenges that Aspiration faces in America today, we're going to ask you to come up with some big ideas on how we solve those challenges as you see them, as the panelists see them, as we go through this session. So thank you all for being part of this and for being part of this conference. I'll let my colleagues here introduce themselves before I pose the first question. So we'll start with Shauna Stevens.
Great. Hi, I'm Shauna Stevens. I work for Bank of America. I'm the community banking program and strategy executives where we do different programs to do financial enablement for the LMI communities.
My name is Gooding, and I am the founder of a charity called Funding the Future. Our goal is to make financial literacy a requirement in every high school, but we do that through sending road-tested vans around the country to open up the room, in hopes that we can have some kind of a teachable moment for financial literacy and getting students to invest in their future selves.
Silvanos Udoka. My name is Silvanos Udoka. I serve as the Dean of the School of Business at Clark Atlanta University.
Yeah. All right, CAU in the house. Any other AUC folks here? No? All right, there we go. Welcome. So the premise of this conversation is, on the face of it, perhaps a challenging, if not depressing one, right? That aspiration amongst young folks is waning. I think we all grew up at a time when our parents wanted us to do better than they did, and for most of us, if not all of us, that was something we believed we could attain, and our parents believed that could be attained. When you ask young people today if that is possible, less than 50% say yes, and that affects individuals' choices when it comes to education, to their professional growth. It affects civic life and how people choose or choose not to engage. And ultimately, it affects the country's strength and bottom line. So we're going to talk about this today in various ways, from various perspectives, and want to leverage your expertise. But I'll start with a question for all three panelists. From where you sit, from your work, what does aspiration in young people look like today, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent? And we'll just kind of go down the line here. Shauna?
Delayed. They believe they will achieve it, but they know they're not on the same trajectory that their parents were on. But they're still very hopeful about what they'll do. They just know it's going to take a little bit longer.
Gooding?
I'm constantly inspired by the amount of fire and passion and ambition that I want to say even especially the students that are underestimated, what they come with after the shows, what they tell us, what they ask us. You know, as musicians, you're kind of, we joke, we're kind of sin eaters. And, you know, before we were working at the schools, it's always the same way at a club or a festival, especially if they've been drinking. They will tell you their life story. And I think it's an interesting thing about humans when we're one-on-one, that sometimes it's much easier to tell a stranger something than the people that you're in a community. The thing that I hope we can maybe get at today, and you can help us figure out, is why is it that it's better to look up to someone who's famous when you know nothing about them, or what they're doing with their families or their communities, or whether they're doing any of the things you folks are doing? Why is it that they want to model just the phone in front of them? Or, you know, plenty of places I'm playing and the other artists are playing that they may not have heard of us. We got 20 minutes to change that, but at the end of it, they're immediately like, you must have the answer. Part of that's because we're pirates. We're driving through the night, we're doing that. But just because you've got 1 million, you know, likes on something or a bazillion streams doesn't mean we're all human. And I think the reason I get hope for where we're headed if we can all make some sacrifices and keep working with young people is that there's a lot of us in society right now, I don't think we want to listen, we want to be heard. These kids, they're trying to learn. And the best way that I think they're going to feel confident for us to be able to tell them something is to listen to them. And believe me, I run my mouth all the time. I got to get out of my own way. But I think if we can make that sacrifice around anybody young, and especially anybody that doesn't have any, I'll wrap this up, but if you're in this room today, somebody probably loved you. Somebody was paying attention. Maybe it was a situation where it wasn't apparent, but somebody probably stepped in. I think, we just have to all inspire a lot more people to do that. I mean, if one person did that with one other person, society's going to be a different place.
Coming from higher education, I sit in a space that there is constant renewal. I think that is what makes this such an exciting place to be in, because there are young people coming in and working their way through this system and getting out. And so regularly there is renewal. I think lately, aspiration there's anxiety that comes with just what we see every day or what we read in the news every day. There's that anxiety. And I feel like our job is to stay focused and not be distracted and shield out the noise, and to continue to reassure these young people that those things that we aspire to as young people to get here, it's still here. And that the obstacles that may seem insurmountable now, people before them have faced something harder and were able to get to the other side. So there are challenges in keeping them inspired, but that becomes what we have to do on a regular basis to keep young people inspired to aspire to higher levels.
Dr. Udoka, we'll stay with you, and then we'll kind of come back down the line. Before we started this session, you were reflecting that you're dealing with adults, young adults, at a moment when I think for many of us, and hopefully for them, they should be brimming with some sort of ambition for what their next chapter looks like. But you mentioned that they are oftentimes carrying a good bit of anxiety about whether the investment in 4 years of higher education is worth it. And so I would pose to you the question, A, you have a self-interested answer here, but A, is it still worth it? I think we're in this moment where higher education is facing some level of backlash, whether it's worth the investment. The cost of higher education has gone up much faster than inflation in kind of exorbitant rates over the last 15, 20, 30 years. And so what does that mean for your students' mindset? And where do you see aspiration taking root at Clark Atlanta with your students?
Great question. Now, the question pops up a lot lately. Is it worth the investment to take on a 4-year degree, for instance? And the selfish answer is yes. But I'll give you reasons why. You see, what I challenge myself and my faculty on a regular basis to do is to find a reason for these young people and for their parents to believe in higher education. You see, the challenge we have lately is that out of maybe sheer frustration, corporations are setting up their own universities or something similar to it, right? And the question that, again, I pose regularly is, why is that happening? It means there's something missing, right, in higher education. Something has to be missing for, say, the Bank of America to set up shop to train its people. So the challenge then is for higher education to step out of its normal boundaries and collaborate with corporations to say, what are we missing? And that is really how I approach the future of education, is to say, there is something I call authentic learning. That means I really expect in each classroom that in addition to a faculty, there is a corporate partner who will authenticate what we are teaching, one. And secondly, that there is students leave at the end of their program with a diploma, but beyond that, they actually have skills. So we are, by having this partnership, we are actually having students practice the skills that we are teaching them. Instead of just teaching from a textbook, we are having them actually practice the skills. So from that standpoint, one could say, yes, a corporate partner like Bank of America could set up shop to do this, but they'll be setting shop to do something very direct to what they are looking for. The advantage of being in higher education is that liberal education still matters. This is when you get to learn to build character, to know the broader things in life, to understand the world. So that is what you will not get in those corporate universities. They will train you directly in the spaces that they want you to be an expert in. But we blend this liberal arts education with whatever your specialty is, and that is the distinction that we bring. And that is the argument we have to make on a regular basis to the students, to the parents, to the grandparents, that it is actually worthwhile for your student to come through these institutions, because they would be able to withstand the future, because they will not only learn that specific specialty, they will learn about a whole lot of things, and that's where critical thinking comes in. So that is how we would sell the need for us to continue to do what we do.
So we get asked probably, I don't know how many times, the artists on the road have been asked 1,000 times, either from the Q&A or after the show. Should we go to college? Should I go to college? To try to answer that question for a second. Now, when I was going to college and it was, $3,000 a semester in state in Kansas at KU, and I actually dropped out a little early to join the rock and roll circus, but I had a Pell Grant. I had help. There was a little bit of safety there. If a student's family, if they have nobody, obviously if the student's doing well, what's the number of folks that have been president from Harvard? It's because it's a great education, but it's also because of the network. And so if you've got some money, yeah, you're going to get all kinds of doors kicked open if you apply yourself. I'm not saying nothing replaces hard work. We always say nothing replaces hard work and saving. But for students who are already struggling, what I'm trying to do, and maybe you help me with this later, I'll buy you a drink. We got to figure out how to get an on-ramp for the students that there's no way anybody's coming for them. And we've got to, whether that be, I say to them all the time, okay, look, we love to play where the buses don't run. It's fun to go to a place where nobody's come by, man. The students are so excited to hear something different. I say, you know what, there might be a trade school if it's something specific you want to do. But I'm preaching the same thing you're saying. Is when I was at KU, that's the first time I had some sociology, I had some environmental studies. A lot of things were very different from where I grew up, Detroit and Kansas. So it's a chance to open your mind and try some things. But if they don't have any money, look, start. If you don't know what you're going to do yet, just don't get in debt. That's and we're at a conference about financial literacy. We're not go through all the stats there. But it's hard to be aspirational when you owe somebody a bunch of money. And if they get in a place where to get that degree, and these days everything's changing, how are they going to make that money back? Unless you're going to be a doctor or lawyer, you don't necessarily go to Harvard. So 2-year school, maybe you finish at a bigger school. The last thing I always say to the students is, look, it's real sexy and cool to have a plaque in your house from a fancy place, but it's going to be what you do, how you treat people. Do you read? Do you ask good questions? Do you connect and empathize with other people? That, at least for me, kind of living out of a van on the road for many years, those were the places where I was able to move things forward. So it's not always the fanciest school.
Goody, I want to stay with you for a second. You've hinted at what Funding the Future does, but I think we're all curious. Can you talk a little bit about the model?
Yeah,
Funding the
probably
Future uses? Yeah.
rock and rollers and financial literacy sounds kind of insane, doesn't it? So basically, we're the very hype that we're trying to dispel out there on the road, we use to try to get them to believe. We start, and it's bands in different genres. I do mostly rock and roll and Latin and funk and whatever. But what we do is we show a couple-minute film of some famous people we've met and what it's like out on the road, get them excited. The battle is won before it's fought. We take the stage. It's an explosion. The sound that lights the whole thing. And then the artist will go, whoever's giving the speech, and the only people that we can bring in for this usually had to be some front person that probably had some little hole in their heart somewhere in their childhood that wants to yell about this and connect with these. You have to see yourself in these students, and they're not going to believe you. They know what's real. They know whether you're being authentic or not. They got everything in the world coming at them on their phone. Then we play a 2-minute film of film and TV placements, and we make sure we're trying, when we onboard artists, we hoping they've already earned, they're worth their salt. And then the students, unfortunately, are going, oh, you're cool, oh, blah, blah, blah. And that's where we got, at least for 15 or 20 minutes, in that dark room, after all that bombast and craziness, we got a teachable moment. So we go through all the, this is not a freaking sales pitch for this. We go through every kind of the fundamental things, which is most of us know does not change. Compound interest, whether it be relationships or money. It's about money, but it's also trying to give them, as John Hope Bryant so beautifully taught us all in 5 great books, hope, some belief in the future self, and watch out for the pitfalls. Same-day lenders, now they got buy now, pay later at 36% on their phone. Now they send in checks to the house. They only sent me 1 credit card. They send in them 10 credit cards. They send their dog a credit card. We go through all this stuff, but we get to do it not because we're so incredible. It's because music makes the medicine go down.
I appreciate that. It's a fascinating approach. We'll come back to both of you. Shauna, Bank of America has for a number of years now put together a Better Money Habits Gen Z report. Hoping you could maybe share a little bit about what you've learned and how organizations and communities can future-proof this generation with respect to their aspiration.
Absolutely. So I'll share some of the data from our study. It'll help with your ideation. So Bank of America for several years has done a Gen Z study where we look at the Gen Z 18 to 28 to understand where they are from their financial health standpoint. Because we can't take for granted that their financial struggles and the products and the services that they need are the same as millennials or the same as Gen X. So we want to make sure that we're evolving as these generations evolve. So what we've learned about Gen Z, they are so dynamic. They are so resilient. With Gen Z, 72% in the past year have taken active steps to improve their financial health, with 51% actually putting money back for savings. But, there's still the downside. When you talk to them, 86% share with us that they can't reach their financial goal because of the economic headwinds, whether it's the high inflationary cost or whether their wages are just so low. But they also tell us that they crave transparency. Think about, this is that generation that did loud budgeting, the ones that were not afraid to say, I can't go because I can't afford it. Unlike my generation where we're just pretending that reasons why we can't go. But they're transparent, so they're craving transparency in their conversations about money. They're also sharing with us what's important to them. And what they say is jobs and careers, education, because they know that if they invest in their education, they're investing in their financial futures, and then they want to start saving for their financial futures. Those are the 3 goals that they've shared with us. So what do organizations need to do? Listen to what they're telling us. Financial education, but how are we embedding that in those critical moments that matter? When they start that first job, is there financial education as a part of that first job? There should be. When we think about transparency with money, that transparency that they're craving, I work for a bank, our money matters very transparent often. And what could we all do to improve on that? And then finally, what tools, what services, what opportunities are we creating to do the priorities that they've shared? Priorities are jobs. How are you upskilling me? How are you training me? How are you giving me that mentorship that I'm craving? Those are the types of things that organizations need to start including in their programs so that we can truly future-proof for this next generation.
And to that last point, whose responsibility is this? The private sector? Is it higher education? Is it nonprofits? Is it government? I mean, the easy answer is it's all those things, but I'm curious from where you sit, where the most acute need is for that level of kind of financial education.
I think we all have to break out of our silos and start partnering. Banks partnering with schools and education and providing tools and providing access. Banks making sure and organizations are making sure that they're partnering with nonprofits and providing internships. Bank of America does a paid internship for high school seniors. So different programs like that are what we need to do to ensure that we're all working together to future-proof for this generation.
Thank you for that. Gooding, you've hinted at this a couple of times. You keep mentioning the phone and kids in their phone, which opens up a whole another session we could do.
Sure.
But I'm curious from your perspective, why you mentioned that, how use of a smartphone is affecting, for good, better or worse, kids' aspirations.
If I think the question is, are we ready for the things that are coming at us? And I don't know exactly what that age is. We can get in the mud with that all day. But there doesn't seem to be any really regulation as to what they have access to. And I'm not, I'm a rock and roller. I don't think I'm probably a little square, but I'm not that square. In order to get, especially if all students, but especially students that are trying to get past something. I got all these little platitudes I like to, sand in the shell makes the pearl, and every great person had to learn who they were through pain and stuff. If the pain gets too much, you don't get to the other side. And I think for at least all I can speak from is what I knew as a kid when I was going through some stuff. And it was that I was lucky enough to have this little world I could build. 3 feet tall, get my butt kicked after school. I'd go home and play my guitar and just kind of hide out. But I wasn't seeing the worst news of 7 billion people at a time. I wasn't seeing the loudest voices on any side of a political, Abby and Van spoke so beautiful to this. I hope everybody was in there. But I also felt like, okay, I got this one little thing, at least on my block, this is the thing that I do. And if you're comparing yourself, comparison's the thief of joy, and never compare your inside to someone else's outside. Those students have to have some little safe spot, some kind of place where they can protect that little spark. And man, depending on what they choose to look at on there, it's getting obliterated. Their attention's getting obliterated. I think their empathy to some degree is getting obliterated. And I'll come back to our empathy. That's the only way we're going to help young people, and some sacrifice. But they're going to get to a place where they're not going to listen. If they're only seeing the worst things that are happening, they're not going to believe the world's a better place. How would you think you're going to do better than your parents if everything you're getting is just, insanity?
So we're
I love phones.
yeah.
Boy, don't worry. The people on our board, they're a lot smarter than me. I got one of the full-time artists here, my manager. I know they're both probably like, well, we will not be working on any sponsorships from Silicon Valley anytime soon. There's great things that are being done and that we can do, but I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah.
And a little more regulation, frankly.
We got 2 minutes where we turn to you all to do some problem solving on big ideas for future-proofing aspirations. I think we'll close here by asking each of you to pose what you think the biggest challenge to aspiration is for young people today, which may frame some of your discussions in your 5 or 6 breakout groups. Dr. Udoka?
I think the biggest challenge to aspiration for young people is us being the buffer between them and again the noise out there. Because if young people, as we just discussed here, they're on their phone, they're saying all these negative things, and they see that as a ceiling, as a barrier, there's got to be some buffer between them and all that noise so that they can actually aspire to be better than our generation.
I'll do really quickly for them and for us. I'll start with us. A lot of things are transactional right now. And if everything's a transaction, they're not seeing that sacrifice. They're not seeing that somebody's thinking about something other than, I think you know where I'm heading, but there's, I think that if they're delayed gratification, I think you mentioned, we like to say time is your greatest asset, but you got to get them to believe that there's going to be a future before they're going to be able to buy into that. There's some students that, we like to say, some people start on third base. That's okay. They might be able to help the world. Some kids talk about it on first base. They don't even have a bat. So our thing is, how do we talk to them about where we were at to where we could just see just that little bit of light in front of us? The numbers don't lie. Time is your greatest asset. But show them exactly how this works step by step to where, because again, if we don't, I'm sure a lot of the panels are talking about this, and I'll close this out here. If we don't get that information to them, they're going to jump the line. I mean, if you run out of hope,
I think it's important to us to make sure that whatever we stand up, it is meeting the economic realities that the youth are seeing today. So we need to make sure we're aligning with that. Specifically, we design programs and we design products, but then are we making sure that we're going back and ensuring that they align with all the youth that we need to be reaching? Are we not only reaching our youth that have means, but do we have certain things that are designed for youth in LMI communities also?
Thank you to our panelists.
Hi, everyone. Wow, fantastic work. Once again, round of applause for our subject expert matters that we have today. I know that there was a lot of conversation. I'm just gonna, off the top of my head, read off a couple of points so that this helps us with our breakout groups. Something that I really like that was said, what are we missing? Authentic learning, corporate partners that authenticate learning. Instead of teaching more from a textbook, teach skills. I really liked, it's sexy to have a plaque, but do you connect and empathize with people? And then Gen Z is resilient. What they're craving is transparency in their conversation about money. So some great points that were given out, and I will let Vern take it away before we break out into our pods.
Well, what she said was some incredible things, but Dr. Stevens, thank you. I gave you a new name. Yeah. I heard collaboration is the only form of currency. I heard the three of you come from three different aspects, giving us what we need to understand what our communities need. Thank you for your yes, thank you for your now, and thank you for your words.
Fantastic. Thank you once again. So what we're going to do now, I know I said 5 pods earlier, but I'm a banker, so I screwed up a number. It's actually 3. There are going to be 3 pods. So what we're going to do, since our room is a little bit tight, we're going to break it up into 1 pod here, 2 pods here, 3 pod there. I'm going to help scribe for this one. I'm going to need a brave soldier to help me scribe for this pod right here. I know I see a lot of brave soldiers out here. Once we do that, we're going to have 25 minutes to speak in our group, and we're going to write down ideas as to how to solve some of the challenges that our speakers spoke to. I will keep you honest with time, so once it is time to wrap up, I'll give you a 5-minute warning, and then we'll wrap it on up. I really look forward to the collaboration. I don't like to talk at people, so let's make sure that we are engaging in conversation and having fun.
Hey, hello, beautiful people. I'm Dr. Anika A. Evans. I am the project director and principal investigator at the Atlanta University Center Consortium, where we are the governing body for the AUC schools, which is Spelman College, Morehouse College, Clark Atlanta University, and Morehouse School of Medicine, and our member school, Morris Brown and ITC. So, very long. And if it's Giving Tuesday, if you want to give to the AUC consortium, please let us know. You will give to one organization that will reach all of our AUC community schools and our amazing scholars. So the top 2 things that our group focused on is investment into social impact firms, where you have a collaboration of individuals who focus on a specific area and provide these different resources, knowledge, and access across the educational realm, so K through 12 and higher education, if I'm correct. And then the second thing is the creation of micro-learning activities that can go on social media, can go in gaming, so just micro-learning across the board so that where our students' attention is, that's where we meet them. So if they're gaming, we get them on those commercials. If they're on social media, we get them there. If they're binge watching shows, they're not paying for no ads. So those ads are getting their attention.
Okay, come on, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. Yes or yes, did they do that? Absolutely. Go ahead, brother. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Omari Harris. I'm in the project management space at Citibank, and I'm so grateful to be here this evening. So we had two different things that we were going to mention, and they kind of lean into each other. So the first thing we have is meeting families where they are. So that includes things like bringing the parents into the conversation, their legal guardians. So that way, you know, maybe when they grow up or whenever they're alone, they still have those people around that could have these conversations with them. And then also we had building a trusting community. So that would be outside of the family, people like your teachers, maybe friends of the family, even just your friends. So that way each one could teach one and you build that community. It grows every day.
Y'all put your head. It's gone. There you go. Listen, that each one teach one just basically brings us back to we become so others can become. They said bring the parents, add them in to the conversations. So when the children come home and we ask what have they done, we don't have to ask. We're there with them. We know what they're doing and what they're saying. Go ahead, project manager. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to my partner in purpose. I know she got some good stuff.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Once again, my name is Mulaney, the girl, that girl, the bad. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. And I'm going to start singing now. I'm kidding. Really had a really great time collabing with this wonderful pod right here. Woohoo! Awesome. So we came out with two, one of them being infrastructure through collaboration in the community. Creating a system, you know, you can give skill sets, you can teach, you can partner, but if you don't have a community that backs you and gives you a system to work with on an everyday basis, you know, we need to make that connection and close that gap. And then on the back of our board.
But they have front and back. They was over there working, y'all.
Thank you. On the back, we talked about exposure to global perspectives, and I really like this conversation. I know, at least for me, when I graduated from college, I thought Georgia was all that there was. So how opportunistic it would be for our generations to recognize that there's so much more to explore in the world. There are so many industries. It's not just Georgia or Chicago or New York or LA. So giving them that perspective when they're in the school systems is such a fantastic way to also close the gap. We had a good old time. I hope you all did too. Vern, I will let you close us out.
Listen, what I heard today is we just finished Thanksgiving, so I know y'all had beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, ham, rams, right? You named it. Actually, you guys named it. Today, we all came together from our own distinct purposes, our own distinct places, and we came together. We had an amazing panel. I know you guys will gleam off of some of the gems that they said. I know I did. But the most important piece is, you guys, don't leave out of this room without connecting with at least one person. I promise you, I'm from Detroit. What up, though? So we got that. I tell people this all the time. I am that little black boy who just decided to do it one more time. You know, my degree is in nursing, and I'm a banker of almost 30 years now, but I did it one more time, and so that's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. Do it one more time with one more person.